So, Hungarian top laner and former EULCS/LEC MVP player Vizicsacsi has returned to competitive play. He will be standing in for Peace, as I just said, the Oceanic team at Worlds in the Plains. He was playing more recently in a Hungarian tournament with the local team. He announced in my reflections with him that he plans to potentially return to LEC, assuming he gets the offers, because it sounds like he actually isn't done with his career, and in a very specific sense, in the sense of feeling like he got to play his way and see what he could do, see if he could be a champion in that sense. Even though that's actually a little bit surprising if you know the way a lot of people categorised him and praised him as a player. So over his career, he had a pretty decent amount of success considering he was always on underdog teams. He appeared in 3 different LEC finals. He was in the Season 5 Spring Final against Fnatic, which went to 5 games. That was the Steel back lineup, not Reckless. He was in the Season 7 Spring Final against G2, the one with Sven and Mithi, the best of 5 kings. And by the way, right after that, they went to MSI and went to the final of MSI. So realistically, you're not supposed to win that one. Then in Season 8 Summer, he was on Schalke and they played against Caps and Reckless's Fnatic, one of the best LEC teams of all time and a Worlds finalist that year. So he obviously didn't get the LEC title yet. That's an obvious thing to go for. It's somewhat the belt on the top of the ladder in the ladder match, as it were, of WWE. He was 6 times in the LEC semi-finals. So yeah, 6 times in the semis, 3 times in the finals. Come away with 0 titles. Yeah, that's brutal. That is pretty rough. It reminds me of his counterpart in the top lane, funnily enough, on a stylistic mirror, Odawam there. Now, he did get to go to Worlds once in Season 9, as I alluded to in the intro with Splice. He carried on Cho'Gath against FPX in one of the games in the group stage. By the way, FPX won Worlds that year. G2 didn't manage to win a game against them. He made top 8 that year. Admittedly, it was a bit soft if you know the group. Like, they could have got a much tougher group. But even so, it was also slightly underrated in the sense that people didn't actually know how good J-Team from the LMS was, because once it was no longer Flash Wolves and AHQ and LMS, no one really fucking cared anymore. They don't realise that team, the star mid laner was 4-4, who, by the way, now is one of the better mid laners in the LPL. They also even, by the way, had a coach that actually went on to become one of the coaches in FPX right now. So that was the only time he qualified for Worlds. It was the only crack he got at it. He lost out a whole bunch of times in the Gauntlet final and could have gone a number of times. So I can see why you might feel career-wise like you haven't accomplished everything you wanted to. Then beyond the titles, as the point of this video is, it sounds like he has real regrets and almost like a bitter vibe when he looks back on his career, maybe bittersweet, that he didn't speak up and demand to get carry champions, demand to have carry lanes, demand jungle attention, to be the strong side player. Because you look back on his career, right, even in Unicorns of Love, when he's one of the best top laners in the LEC and he won the MVP in Season 7 Spring, you look at some of the champions he plays and he gets the odd carry and everything else is a bruiser. Even then, by the way, in Season 5 UOL, they had PoE. You have to play around him, and questionable junglers pretty much his whole time in Unicorns of Love. Then in Schalke and Splice, well, obviously he was on tank and bruiser duty. First of all, he's a veteran, and then secondly, I think one of the reasons he got those offers is because look at the players they have in the other traditional carry roles. Schalke had Nukeduck and Upset, right? Well, they both want to carry right there. Nukeduck's going to sidelane all game, and Upset obviously wants to be played around as an ADC. Then in Splice, he had Humanoid as his mid laner, who was already obviously going to become a star. And then he has Kobe, who you want to get fed so he can carry that team fight late in the game, right? So as a result, there were no resources or attention for Chachi in this team. So you look at his career, and despite the fact he's saying he wants to be this carry player, it really shows in the champions he had to play what he ended up having to do for his teams. I'll tell you the most played champions of his career. He played 52 games on Shen, 50 games on Gnar, 40 games on Maokai, 34 games on Poppy, obviously a pocket pick of his, 34 games on Gangplank, and 25 on Cho'Gath. Then the number of games just starts to drop rapidly, like you're going way down. One of the bizarre ones is, despite all the tank and bruiser duty, he barely actually played Ornn. He only played something like 10 times in his career, even though, by the way, if you're going to play the style he does, you'd think that would be perfect for him, but for whatever reason, he talks about in the interview, that just wasn't a champion he played. But it sounds to me, and if you look at his career, like he wanted some of those carry champions. He wanted Aurelia, Kennen, Renekton, etc. He wanted to play these champions. I'm sure when he looks at Season 8 to now, he thinks, everyone else gets to play all the carry champions. They all get to flex between the mid lane and the top lane. Like ADC's been complaining the last few years. Now could have been his time, but he retired at the end of Season 9, right? Then you look at who he is. I went and looked up old interviews and stuff. This guy, one of his main interests is chess. And as a chess player, he likes to play speed chess. So he described the things he liked about chess were fast decision making, realizing opportunities, going for surprise plays, being 3 to 4 steps ahead of your opponent. That doesn't sound like a tank/weak side player, does it? That doesn't sound like Impact, Gimgoon. Doesn't sound like that sort of a player at all. That sounds like a player who wants to be mixing it up, who wants to potentially be carrying the game, who wants to come with a matchup that you don't think's as good, and then he beats you out and he knows the timing of when to go in on you and when the jungler should come in and go for some crazy gank. So an interesting detail about Vizicsacsi for me is he didn't know this himself. I told him it in the interview. Is the meaning of his name in Hungarian is water donkey. Now apparently that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have any cultural impact. That's just what the name literally means if you look up what he's put together. But here's the thing: if you know anything about the occult world, there is an incredible emphasis placed on what you name something. If you name something, you potentially access or have power over it. Now, and so as a result, everyone in the pleb world will tell you, like, oh, that name's just a coincidence, or oh, it's probably a funny name. Oh, they probably named themselves that as a joke. But there's actually a consistent theme throughout the world of, let's say, the illuminated or educated people, that these sorts of names matter because they carry with them associations and meanings and perhaps even in some way are predictive of the future. Again, we're talking about a premise here, a model. We're not saying this is necessarily the case in reality. But I thought it was curious that when you look that up, his name is Water Donkey. Well, in English, a donkey is a beast of burden, right? It's something that you just load up and you make it do all the work so that you don't have to. You have an easier time, right? The donkey carries everything. And if you want to talk about water, well, the concept of carrying water for someone in English basically means to sort of serve them, to do a task for them, do some hard work for them. So his name overall, quite frankly, fits what ended up happening with his career. It kind of followed that theme. He was the beast of burden that they just made take all the shit in the top lane, have no resources. He was the guy where he had to carry water for the mid laner and the ADC, and it got quite far. But then aside from that one split where he got MVP, he wasn't really the one getting the credit, was it? It was others. I mean, people think in his career, he played in the era of Hooney, and then obviously my boy Odoam there, all sorts of Wonder, all sorts of elite topplers, Soaz. These are the big names. He was just in the shadows because he didn't get his chance totally to be the carry player. And plus, even though his career looks very similar to Odoamne, the difference is, if I talk to Odoamne, yeah, he'll sort of be like, yeah, it would have been cool to play more carry champions, or sometimes I want to play carry champions when they're available. But even though he has the skill set of a carry player, the talent, the champion pool, he almost has adopted the mentality of the weak side player. And even though at times he wanted to be a carry player, he's also fine just being the weak side player if it means the team wins, if it means he has a chance to win. Like, if you go back even in H2K at Season 5 when he first came in LEC, he was a very good player, but he was already a weak side player. In Season 6, he had Forgiven as his AD carry, so he basically permanently going to be a weak side player anyway. But even then, he went to Worlds, Jace was in the meta, he's popping off in practice and in the games. Even in Rogue, when at times they could certainly play through Odoam there, he's one of the better top laners in the league, they sometimes put him on carry champions like Jace and then just abandon him if it goes wrong, like at one point in the game and just gets Zed banged in. But at least he's at peace with it. I mean, listen, he wishes he won more titles, and sometimes maybe he wishes he was more selfish. Might have gotten him into better teams like G2. But he kind of can take it. Sounds to me like Vizicsacsi isn't. And so a key topic to me is the concept that when you play for the team, when you sacrifice, listen, that's great, but it has to be acknowledged. If you don't feel appreciated, then you're not going to enjoy it as much. And certainly, if they just say, right, you're only sacrificing. No, sometimes it's appropriate. Give me a carry game. Give me the carry champs. Even if you are Nuke, Doc, and Upset, whoever, give me the occasional one so I feel like I am appreciated. Like when I'm going against a bad top laner and I'll smash him, yeah, give me a chance to, like Impact has done in Team Liquid and AG for so many years. So to me, that's the key thing. We use this terminology of everyone should sacrifice for the team and everyone should give up to them, and we praise those players because typically we need those players to go around superstar talents, and superstar talents tend to have a massive head like Forgiven and just want everything to go their way all the time, even when it's not even appropriate, or like Piglet. So as a result, we usually tell everyone sacrifice, it's no I in team, you know, it's not about what you do individually, it's about what the group does, because we're normally trying to get those guys' egos down and get them in check. For someone like Vizicsacsi, maybe that sort of language makes them actually think they have to basically do that, especially because the others aren't going to win the carry lanes. And so as a result, eventually they feel like, but I never got my chance, like I never got my share. And that does feel a bit whack. That does feel a bit unfair. So I think, aside from getting to play some carry champs, which I hope happens, like I hope he goes to like a mid-table team and he can be a difference maker. I hope he has a chance to maybe get another crack at a title. because he would be one of the players in EULCS/LEC history that had the longest career and played in many top teams and then finally won the title. Like, Jankos took a long, long time to get his. My boy Erdogan still hasn't got one. Nukedok is missing one, and who knows if he'll ever be in a good enough team to win. By the way, speaking of getting missing stuff that you really need, how about 20% off Gamersops this weekend with the code Thorin, Thorin, at gamersops.gg? It's delicious.
Hey guys, Kajo here, and you're watching Thorin's YouTube channel. I may never have found my way to playoffs, but I'm pretty sure Thorin's never found the clit. So yeah, enjoy the video.
This video was kindly supported by Kris with a K, Lager15, Matt Pugnatio, Rajcula, Skaparen, Travis Goff, Zack Schmidt, Adam Ochs, Alexander Rao, Animosity, BotPounder420, Kris, ErikHillestad, Hades, Jdubs, Jensen Goh, John Shelton, Joseph Ginsburg, Kovacevicd, Tobias Bernasconi, Zoomba, Zyrathenia, and special thanks go out to both Jerky's Minion and DZL. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for some of my content? Want to ask me a question in one of those video AMAs? Do you want teasers? Who's going to be the guests on my next interviews? Do you want to take part in a lengthy esports discussion with me? Well, put your money where your mouth is. Join the Skoluminati today at the Patreon link in the description box below.